I'm Jonathan Lieben.
I'm Thomas Terry.
Well, Thomas has been extremely helpful for us in rebranding as Nine Marks and in building a new website. And we thought it would be useful just to have a brief conversation about it, why we did what we did. Thomas, as a pastor who kind of gets our DNA, but also as a creative who helps us think a little bit more aesthetically and thoughtfully about what we're communicating.
I mean, I think as someone who was consuming a large amount of content from the Nine Marks website, I found the old website to be very helpful, but sometimes a little confusing to navigate. Perhaps a little bloated. I probably had a desire to simplify the website, give it a bit of simplicity. One of the benefits of Nine Marks is you guys just have a think tank. If you know me, I have a high view of aesthetics and beauty, and so I wanted to try to push Nine Marks a little bit in that area.
If you've not listened to the Pastor's Talk Thomas and Mark and I did on beauty, my daughter, who's a graphic design major at college, texted me recently. He's like, Thomas Terry is so cool. I'm like, yes, he is. And she deeply appreciated the comments you made on beauty and aesthetics in that conversation.
Well, I was just going to say, in the circles that we tend to move in, Reform, kind of Baptistic pastors, I was actually really surprised that you guys were willing to have a conversation about the overall aesthetics and simplicity and nearness and beauty, not just of the website, but of the brand in general. And so I thought I would ask you a couple questions. So do you have like a theology of aesthetics and beauty and simplicity and some of those things?
Yeah, a little bit. One place I thought about it was when I did my book, Word-Centered Church. So what's the relationship between common grace gifts and special grace word, Holy Spirit infused, life-giving word? And one metaphor I thought about was just the metaphor of platform, right? Common grace gifts provide a platform for special grace ministry. A microphone, a stage, are all platforms for speaking the word, very, very literally, right? A stage and a microphone. But so is the English language. So is gifts of charisma. So is the ability to use language well, right? All of those things function to serve as platforms for special grace words and word ministry. Then I think about aesthetics generally, four things. Aesthetics adorn, aesthetics speak, aesthetics advertise, and aesthetics should advertise not the adornment, but the word itself, the truth. Let me kind of unpack that. And the word adorn I get from 1 Timothy, where Paul says, I desire that a woman should adorn themselves in respectable apparel, with modesty and self-control, not with braided hair and gold or pearls or costly attire. So you have a woman, that's the thing, and she can adorn herself in a number of ways, in respectable, modest attire, with self-control, or she can adorn herself with braided hair, gold, pearls, and costly attire. And those different, so first, aesthetics adorn, right? They're on the outside of a thing. Here's the second thing. They speak. They communicate something about the thing that they're adorning. Aesthetics speak, right? And if she's adorning herself in respectable apparel with modesty and self-control, she's speaking one set of things. Where if she's adorning herself with braided hair, gold, pearls, costly attire, she's speaking another set of things. You got to think about the adornment. You got to think about what is it saying. And then the third thing I said is aesthetics advertise. That is to say, it's another way of saying the second thing. It speaks. It's drawing attention to something. It draws attention to her riches, her beauty, her wisdom. What are her adornments drawing attention to exactly? And then fourth, you see a concern in Paul that it's not finally, her riches or beauty or look at me, I'm awesome, I'm beautiful, I want you to praise and worship me. with the gold and the pearls and the costly attire. Rather, she's drawing attention to her modesty and her self-control and her respectableness and so forth. In other words, there's certain virtues that Paul is wanting her, with her adornment, to advertise.
Yeah,
right?
That's good.
Okay, so as I think about 9 marks and as I think about beauty, I think about aesthetics, I want stuff that is clear, that communicates, speaks, it advertises. But what does it advertise? It doesn't advertise itself. It advertises the content that it's pointing toward, right? So it's got to be very clear. It's got to be simple about that. It's not going to be too garish or showy or glitzy. So a lot of ministries, they advertise, they adorn themselves with very videos and, I don't know, fancy ways of saying things and cool, splashy websites. And you walk away and you say to yourself, oh, that was awesome. Man, those guys are professionals. Well, what's being advertised? What's being spoken? Well, what's being spoken is their cleverness. What's being spoken and advertised is how cool all of those gimmicks are. A ministry I appreciate for their kind of simple, mere, clear aesthetics is Desiring God. They do not have a splashy website, but it looks very professional. It's very simple. It's very clear. And I'm drawn to the content. I'm not distracted by anything. I'm like, oh, hey, what are they saying? And it's kind of, all of it's sort of a pleasant experience, as I step into Desiring God sort of stuff. Okay, my theology of aesthetics, there it is. It's about adornment. Adornment speak. Adornment advertises. Adornment. It's advertising something. And what is it? Is it the content itself, or is it, hey, look at me, I'm a beautiful whatever?
Yeah,
want to push back, complicate?
No, it's actually interesting. In a couple days, I'm going to be teaching at a Northwest worship conference that we do here, and I'm actually going to be unpacking the seeker-sensitive church and the way that they present content, information, and how they often, build their churches that look like music venues. So they leverage a lot of technology and they claim to be accessible. I'm also going to touch on the emerging church or the emergent church and how they used a lot of sacred symbols and, like what I think we might refer to as smells and bells. And I think the piece that's missing in all of that is like the word, the content. So they can emphasize like aesthetics, accessibility. They can even emphasize kind of sacred things. But when they don't emphasize the word, all of those things point to nothing except themselves. And so that's one of the things I really appreciate about your theology is it's a recovering of the word, the content. It's that content that is compelling us to the beauty of Jesus. And so, yeah, man, I love it.
Originally, Thomas, you weren't compelled. As I recall, when you saw the 9 marks the first time, you were just like, what's the deal with your Microsoft Blue? It feels like, I feel like you said,
Excel users, yeah.
Excel.
Yeah. Which is fine, but I did appreciate that when I was making some critiques, like playful critiques, that 9 marks responded well and said, well, man, we do have a theology of aesthetics, and our theology of aesthetics should reflect our ministry. And so that's when we began having a conversation about.
And so you helped work with our branding team, and you led us to a black logo instead of a blue logo, and kind of a black in general. But then also what I really liked was the different colors. And I like the fact that the brown, green, yellow, orange, purple kind of had an international flair vibe to it, because that's something we're trying to communicate. We're trying to communicate this isn't just American. This is biblical. We as much as we can, and therefore relevant, different times, different places around the world. And I like the different colors and how that tried to communicate that. Why did you push towards black?
I just feel like the black mark was more accessible. We can put it on more things. And I think what it does is it focuses you in on the content. There's no flashy colors that's pulling you into or distracting you. It's just kind of, it moves you into content. And I thought that, it was just a lot easier. And it's not Microsoft Blue. So
can you walk us through other decisions that we made that are part of the new website and the new branding in terms of like font and why these or why those? What were we seeking to achieve in the overall look? That's the first question. And then my next question will be about pastors. But first, other stuff?
Thinking about typography it's hugely important. I want to have a typography that is both accessible, meaning I can read it, it's clear, which means I'm going to focus on the line spacing and the kerning. And I also don't want to compete with a whole bunch of, graphics that are just kind of floating around. I just want a good use of negative space so that I'm able to just engage in an undistracted way and absorb content. And I think typography is huge. So if you have like caricature fonts, or you have fonts that are just not very legible, or they might be trendy or cool, but you start to feel fatigued after reading it. And if the primary focus of the website is to help pastors think biblically and wisely about building healthy churches, we just want them to stay on that website for as long as possible without feeling fatigued. And a lot of pastors just don't think about typeface, but there is a space to think about it. How clear is it? Is it distracting from, the pulpit, or does it help to, work in partnership with what's going on in the pulpit? And
I love the way that you're reaching in a typeface and reaching in a font and saying, hey, this is a common grace area where in our Adamic, Adam-like capacity, we are seeking to exercise dominion.
Yeah.
But to do so for the glory of God and the glory of the gospel word. Okay, then my last question then was anything to say to pastors as pastors are thinking about, I don't know, takeaway lessons or what they might do with their bulletins or anything else, their podcasts.
Yeah, I think the danger in, I mentioned earlier, like the seeker-sensitive church and the emergent church, the danger was an overemphasis on accessibility and, icons and symbols and, experience. The danger is to disregard that. They did some things right? It's good to be accessible, and it's good to showcase that which is beautiful and aesthetically appealing. The danger is to just throw that all away and just say we don't need to focus on anything that's aesthetically appealing or mere or simplistic because that's just not really important. As a pastor, I'm always thinking through aesthetics. I'm thinking through beauty all the time, even in how I try to communicate the beauty of God's word to people. So my takeaway would be, pastors, we just want to challenge you to think about not just the what, but the how it's communicated, because it's very important, especially in the culture in which we live. We live in a culture where everything is driven by aesthetics and beauty. And so I actually think that we as pastors should have an apologetic of beauty. Not that beauty itself is the penultimate, but beauty becomes the basket in which truth can be disseminated. And I think it makes it palatable for our culture. So, yeah.
Well, one other thing worth mentioning, Thomas Terry has a book, Images and Idols, Creativity for the Christian Life, that he wrote with another old seminary friend of mine, Ryan Lister. You can check it out. Useful materials. So, brother, thank you for helping to lead 9 Marks through our move away from Microsoft Blue and into the bold new world of black.
Yes. And simplicity. Appreciate you, brothers, man. Love 9 Marks. Love what you guys are doing. You guys have been a great encouragement to me as a brother and as a pastor. So thank you for your hard work and your labor.
Awesome. Thanks.